at this time is in dire need of a democracy that would deliver for the people and fuel economic growth. This democracy that is much craved after by Nigerians is one that would expand opportunities for productive jobs and development. The people simply want an economy that will generate entrepreneurship and sustainable livelihoods. But how can this be when the soul of efficient labor market institutions is threatened? For some time now, all has not been well with the tripod in the labor market institution. To use the layman's language, the government, employers, and the workers' organization have had it rough. Yet, it is a known fact that economic development goes hand in hand with social development and respect for the rights of workers. Today on your program Policy on Track, we shall bring you build up to the crisis brewing in the financial sector, roles played by various interest groups in order to manage the labor relations. Of course, all is still not well in the oil industry, despite effort made by governments, given the role oil plays in the economy. My name is Mo Gwenewilki, your host. You are welcome. Let's take first stories that made headlines in the last 1 week. On Friday, the U.S. Congress voted to place limits on expense accounts allotted to former presidents. These accounts cover travel, staff, and office costs. The new bill caps spending at $200,000 and reduces it further if the former president makes over $400,000 in a year. The sponsors of the bill argues that most ex-presidents did not need support from taxpayers since they make millions in book deals and speaking fees. The bill also sets pensions for president at $200,000 a year and $100,000 for spouses if they outlive the former president. The bill cleared by a voice vote in the House of Representatives and has been sent to President Obama for assent. Enforcement of the law against street trading across Lagos metropolis commenced fully Thursday after the Ramadan break, according to officials of the state government. Recall that Governor Akinwumi Ambode had directed the enforcement of the law following the death of a street hawker. A close check by AIT reveals that while many traders have left the streets, a few still on the roads appear indifferent to the governor's directive.
In most Nigerian cities, particularly those prone to traffic gridlock, including Lagos, street trading has become the order of the day. More worrisome is that the act is usually carried out by underage children who are sometimes knocked down by hit-and-run vehicles. Many have blamed this on the harsh economic situation in the country and government's inability to cater for the needs of the people.
There is no money, there is no job, there is no where to stay and sell. Me, myself, I have a land, but I need equipment. I don't have money to buy it.
This law has, however, been greeted with mixed reactions from residents.
Let the government provide a nice job for our own country, because where they are pushing us is very bad. We are suffering for this country.
If they did not find anything where what they do, how they can't carry all of us now. Well, they buy diesel now, 200 naira per liter. And you say you don't want anybody to hawk on the road.
First of all, you don't just get people out of the street. Most of them they are graduates. So what are you going to do when you take graduates out of you put them into crimes?
The leadership of Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association, Pengasin, reiterates its position to continue with this total shutdown strike until the federal government resolves the issue affecting the oil and gas sector. The statement was made Friday by the Vice Chairman, Lagos State Zone, Obara Chibweze, who led a team on a monitoring tour to the various oil facilities in the state to check the level of compliance by its members.
Day 2 of the strike embarked by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasin. According to them, the strike is aimed at correcting the shortcomings on the side of the federal government on issues affecting the sector.
The oil and gas industry is the only surviving industry now in Nigeria. And if time is not taken, this government will want to kill it like they've killed other industries.
The nationwide strike, according to the association, involves the upstream and downstream sectors, as well as the loading and export sectors.
Uncertainty continues to pose major challenge to the financial sector, particularly the banking industry, where thousands are being sent into the already saturated labor market in Nigeria. Alleged retrenchment without procedure and anti-unionization were identified as vexed issues. While the tripartite body were in Geneva, Switzerland, for the 2016 International Labour Conference in June, management of 6 commercial banks were alleged to be engaged in a illegal mass sack of its workforce. Against this background, the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, called for a stay of action by management of the banks and the trade unions, who threatened to picket the affected banks nationwide to allow for further negotiations. Swiftly, the employer's voice, that is NECA, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, says, in a democracy, no personality should ascribe to himself a role beyond what the law permits, thereby asking employers to disregard the call by the Minister of Labour as it runs contrary to the spirit and letter of the law on redundancy in Nigeria.
The banking sector is one of the dominant sectors of the economy. It serves as the engine of growth for the real sector financing. So, strong engagement by social partners is important for increasing productivity, managing labor relations, and ultimately economic growth. But all this must be guided by labor laws. So when the news of the illegal mass sack broke, the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, called for a stay of action, asking employers in the banks to put the exercise on hold as he had earlier directed.
Before you left Nigeria, you addressed the issue of workers in the financial sector losing their jobs. And the organized private sector, represented by NECA, said there is a limit, that the power to fire and hire does not reside with government.
It's protecting their own interests. They are a leg of the tripod. Nothing stops them from having their own opinion. They are in, the affiliation, the section that protects the private investors and private sector employers. So they're an employer's body. And the people I'm talking to are also employers. That is the people in the banks, the bank boards and the bank chairmen and the bank MDs. Those are the people I'm talking to. I also talk to unions whenever needs be. And in that same particular government order, I asked the unions also not to picket the banks, because they have mobilized to picket the banks. It's the job of government to maintain a peaceful milieu on both sides. And that is why I gave the directive. Because from investigation, preliminary reports are available to us. The banks, the insurance companies, the financial institutions, because it's not only limited to banks. These revenue generation collecting agents and bodies are part of financial institutions. They are all laying off. And they are also, in some cases, they are not even allowing their workers to unionize, which is wrong. It's against the ILO principles. And they have not entered into collective bargaining agreement, CBA, which is the first step you will do if you want to lay off some workers. They did not do that. And we have conclusive evidence to show they did not do that. Because even when we invited them, they were reluctant to come.
The two labor centers, that is the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, say they would picket the banks if the management of such banks goes ahead to undermine the pronouncements of the minister to maintain status quo.
The Ministry of Labour statutorily have a responsibility to ensure that industrial relation practice is governed by rules and roles, and that our law must be respected. And that he has exercised by ensuring that unions don't picket the banks, and also the banks withhold their letter of sack until the issues are resolved. That is what we stand for. And therefore, if any bank goes ahead to try to undermine that pronouncement that has been made by the minister will also have no obligation to make sure that those banks are not actually picketed.
Our response is very, very clear. The government as a regulator has said that the status quo ante should be maintained. And if the bank should go ahead to do that, it is violating the rules. Globally, and particularly with ILO Convention, when you hire, just like you have the opportunity and the right to fire, you must also follow the due processes. And if you don't follow the due processes, of course the laws of the land pertaining the issue of the processes for hiring and firing will take its course.
What led to this sack? We know that the global, the financial system is not too conducive. But why will the bank at this point in time?
Well, the excuse, investors, especially African investors, who always talk about is the issue of the bad environment, where they operate, and the issue of competition and the downturn in the economy. All these are issues that employers will always canvass before embarking on rationalization. But we had expected that at least we tarry a bit, with the efforts of government, maybe the economy, we expect the economy to pick up, in a couple of months, with the kind of arrangement government is putting in place, and the kind of budget we have this year. If it is fully implemented, we believe that things will be better. But an average investor does not have the patience for, the patience for waiting for good returns tomorrow. They want their returns today.
The Director General of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, the voice of employers in the private sector, Segun Oshinowo, says human asset is precious to business, so businesses would not recklessly dispossess their assets. He said the dynamics of running a business cannot be subjected to government directive, stressing that any erring employer be arraigned before the National Industrial Court.
Just like you made reference to Section 20 of the Labour Act, the minister said as a regulatory body, he has asked both the employers to take action and the trade unions, because from their preliminary investigations, most of these employers in the financial sector do not have collective bargaining mechanism in place.
The dynamics of running a business is such that the survival of that business is in the hands of the owners and managers of the business. And those are dynamics which cannot be subjected to the approval of a government authority, because the businesses are responsible to their shareholders who have provided the capital for the establishment of the business. The second issue is that human asset is precious to every business. And I do know that the companies we are talking about must have invested significantly in the development of the human assets. So they are precious to the business. And the business will not recklessly or insensitively just dispossess themselves of their precious assets. So for a company to have come to a decision that it wants to reduce staff or rationalize its staff strength, then the survival and the existence of that company must have been at the edge. So you cannot compromise or subject that to the directive of any government, except if the law grants that government the authority to demand that its approval be sought. But to the best of my knowledge, the current law in Nigeria does not confer that power on any arm of government. That's on this side. Then the other aspect of what we really need to look at is the process of carrying out retrenchments. And as you have rightly pointed out, Section 20 is quite clear about what the procedure is. Section 20 enjoins the employer to inform the union, or representative of the workers. But again, the reality on ground is that it is not all establishment that we have union.
After the return of the social partners from Geneva, Switzerland, for the World Parliament of Labour, the fireworks thrown at each other had waned. The Senate intervened on the issue of the threat by the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, to withdraw the licenses of deposit money banks, DMBs, who failed to heed his directive to suspend the redundancy exercise in the sector. On June 29, the NLC, NECA, and representative of the banks met on the vexed issues of illegal retrenchment and non-unionization in the banking industry. The planned picketing was put on hold, but alas, the Joe Ajaero-led splinter group of the NLC insists the picketing would go as planned in the coming weeks, citing inducement of the leadership of the NLC by the employer's body.
The Nigerian Labour Congress, in a press release, announced the suspension of the planned picketing of the 6 banks following facts presented at the meeting between NLC and NECA in Abuja. The release further said in focused meeting between NLC, NECA, and the National Union of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutions employees, the junior staff union in the financial sector would continue in order to resolve other disengagement issues. On banks without unions, the NLC heeded the employers' appeal for the issue to be further discussed within a month. However, the Georgia splinter group of the NLC is opposed to the suspension of the bank's picketing.
We met with Nubife and they issued a joint statement that you can't take decision on behalf of Nubife in the absence. And if you do that, no matter the inducement could be anything, that has made you to do this. You acted in error.
You mentioned the issue of inducement, and that whichever way. How did you come about that the NLC, the Ayuba-led NLC, was induced by NECA?
What did NECA go to do in their office to make them to take decision for Nubife? Under the law, it is Nubife that is licensed to perform or to operate in the banking sector. No union, not even me, no center can go into any of the banks without the consent of Nubife. And when you bring 2 centers, the employer center, the workers center, no matter where they belong, let's now say in this context, NLC, Abuja, to meet in a situation that Nubife and Nubai, the Bank Employers Association, should have met, then somebody is speaking above the people concerned. This matter, at worst, if it's not Nubife versus the banks involved, the Bank Employers Association, should have met with Nubife and not NECA. And NECA now decides to go and meet Abuja, leaving the employers or maybe carrying one of them without Nubife. Now you can see that any agreement that comes from this process is not binding on Nubife.
According to our research, NLC has a letter from Nubife. Are you now saying that you are leading a group or a session of Nubife and NLC is also leading another group of Nubife? Probably because NLC is divided, Nubife is also divided.
We have one Nubife, as at today, at least to the knowledge of every Nigerian, led by Danjuma as president and Sheikh as the general secretary. That I know. If there's any other faction of Nubife, I'm not aware.
Sheikh was the person that signed the letter.
Fine. Now, if Sheikh signed a letter inviting NLC Abuja to move into it.
Is there NLC Abuja?
Yes.
There is NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress.
Well, I'm saying inviting NLC Abuja to move into it. If there is a letter signed by Sheikh and there's another letter signed with me, with Sheikh, that he doesn't know what they are doing, I think you know where to go for this interview.
The NECA boss says recent developments in the economy portend serious threat to industrial harmony and, if not urgently arrested, would affect the nation's GDP growth. He described the Joajero splinter group as an illegal body.
NECA knows of only one NLC. There's only one mainstream NLC, and that is the NLC that is led by Comrade Ayuba Waba. We received a letter from them informing us that they will be picketing 6 banks because those banks had conducted retrenchments without following due process. And since those companies are members of NECA, and NECA has a viable and robust platform for engaging them, NECA wrote to the NLC to give it a chance to engage the NLC in dialogue over the issues which the NLC had listed in its letter. And the issues which NLC listed in its letter are twofold. One is the alleged retrenchment carried out by these 6 banks without following due procedure. And the second issue that was listed in the NLC letter was allegation of anti-unionization by the entire banking industry. In line with the law on industrial relations in Nigeria, NECA knows of only one NLC. There's only one legal NLC. And in fact, I will address this issue further in the course of my presentation. And I want to plead with you, our friend in the press, to stop talking about a faction of the NLC. There's simply nothing like that. We want to plead with the press because the use of the terminology faction of the NLC tends to have emboldened the promoter of the so-called faction to present themselves as a legitimate union platform, which they are not. To the best of our knowledge, Comrade Ajero has a prima facie right as a trade unionist to lead National Union of Electricity Employees. That role is recognized by law. It's backed up by the law of Nigeria, labor law of Nigeria. But to the best of our knowledge also, there is no faction of the NSC because there is only one NSC that has the certificate of registration. For you to conduct trade union responsibility, you would have been duly registered by the Registrar of Trade Union, an act which is backed up by a certificate that will be issued to you by the Registrar of Trade Union. That certificate, as of today, is in the custody of the only NSC we know, which is led by Comrade Ayuba. Any other body that is parading itself as NLC is simply acting illegally.
Oshino wants government to rein in the illegal body as failure to act would create rumblings in the industrial climb.
Section 51, in fact, actually anticipated a situation where some people that have not been registered as trade union may want to parade themselves as trade union. And that section empowers the government to prosecute any person, any organization that has not been so recognized or registered as a trade union, but parade itself as a trade union or a trade unionist. So from our own understanding of the law and the practice of industrial relations, long before now, the government ought to have prosecuted the faces of the so-called faction of the trade of the NLC, because it is a rogue union. It's not supported by the law. The law is very clear about it.
However, Joajero reiterates that his NLC would compel NECA and others to obey the laws of the land and act within the ambit of international standards and norms.
All these banks, are they members of NECA? Now, what is the role of NECA? Is it not to unionize? NECA is unionizing employers. The role we are playing is the role they are playing. They are registered as a trade union to take care of employers. And then you now want to mediate and tell those, unionizing employees how to go about their own business. I have never at any time asked any employer not to join NECA. Never. You know, but he is telling you that they have rights to hire and fire. They can fire, especially where they are not unionized. If they are not unionized, are they unionized with you? So I felt that these excesses should be curtailed so that every one of us, not NECA now, should act within the ambits of the law. And if they say they are the people authorizing all these illegal sacks, then we should go and carry protest to them that this thing you are doing is bad. That's the whole essence of picketing.
The last line for today will be that solutions should be proffered to the issues of the management of redundancy with the interest of all, that is government, workers, employers alike, in mind. That will be our package. Thank you for being there. Please contact us through any of our social media platforms you have on the screen for your contributions and comments. My name is Mo Wilkie. Bye-bye.